Welcome to the Here's Hope Project, where your story creates hope. I'm Sarah Jane, and in today's episode, I'll be bringing on Steph, who is the mother of Bree, who was diagnosed with something called Alexander's disease, which is very rare. So I wanted to bring her on to talk about, her experience because, I think when it comes to rare diseases, it can be so easy to feel overlooked and like you don't matter. But the truth is, you do matter, and it's important that we share your stories to bring more awareness and to help others out there who also face rare diseases. So it's kind of my hope today that some of you will be able to connect with what Steph has to share and just know that you aren't alone. So here is my conversation with Bree's mom, Steph.
'Cause it's here where we lay in my blanket of despair, where I'm weak but I'm strong and black smoke fills the air, where I'm burning broken.
Hello, Steph. Welcome to my podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So today we are going to hear about your experience with having a child with a rare disease and, just what it's like. The obstacles you faced, what your journey was to even finding a diagnosis, because I think for a lot of parents, it can seem like a never-ending search for answers. Before we get into all of this, though, I really want to take a moment to just honor Bree's life and celebrate her, because she unfortunately passed away in March of 2022. And this past Sunday would have been Bree's 16th birthday, so that had to be a hard day to get through. I mean, you may even still be feeling it, and my heart goes out to you. It really does. I mean, what an amazing girl Bree really was. I mean, she had such a big impact on people around the world, not just the US. I remember I worked on a music video for you a while back when she had passed, just to honor her life. And in that video, I included testimonies from those that just absolutely loved and adored her. And I remember watching these videos that people would send in, and I just tear up because, it really hits you that she was just such a blessing to others and such a courageous little girl, with a purpose to bring joy and hope to others. And I remember one of the people that sent in a video, he was a motivational speaker in the UK named Jamie Danier. And he had said, that we shouldn't be sad that Bree left us, but we should rejoice that she was once here and what a blessing she was and will forever be. And I hope you can, take heart in that. And just, I just want you to know too that I think it's so brave of you to continue sharing her story through the loss, because that has to be hard. So, just thank you. Thank you for being you and for being the incredible person that you are. Is there anything you would like others to know just about the kind of girl Bree was and the legacy that she's leaving behind?
She was a very bubbly little girl who always smiled regardless of the pain. She loved Jesus. She loved being in church. She loved Disney. She just loved being around people. And we could be walking in the store and she would just smile, and it would grab people's attention that, like, wow, this little girl is just smiles. And that's what a lot of people mention to me is, missing her beautiful smile. And
Yeah.
I just hope this podcast can help families that are struggling, because it is a roller coaster.
Yeah, it really is. Bree really did draw people in with that smile. It was amazing. But yeah, I do think that your story is definitely already impacting people. I'm excited to, be able to give you the opportunity to share today, so we can continue, getting her out there and just spreading the word. So for those listening, Bree was diagnosed with a terminal illness called Alexander's disease, which is a rare neurological disorder that affects the nervous system. She was diagnosed in 2016, but this was 6 years after she started showing symptoms. And it took almost, about 6 or 7 neurologists, you said, before you had a confirmed diagnosis. So that's a lot of time spent in the unknown. I'd like to get started in the beginning, if you don't mind just taking us back, to when Bree first started showing symptoms. What were those symptoms and what did the doctors tell you then?
Well, she was born a healthy girl. back when she was 17 months old, which was October of 2009. She began having like staring spells and went into a full blown seizure later that night. And she spent 8 days at the hospital in Colorado. They did spinal taps, MRIs, CAT scan. I mean, they did all the tests in the book. They eventually told us after that 8 day stay that they were going to transfer, have her be seen by a neurologist. At this time, I was 23, 24. I didn't know, like a neurologist. What is that for? So when we began seeing them, they looked at MRIs and stuff and redid the MRIs, and they tested her for, I don't know, probably 50, 60 different leukodystrophies, because I guess they could tell on the MRI that it was under a leukodystrophy. But all the tests kept coming back negative. Where we were living in Colorado, we lived on 80 acres, so it took us probably just 2 hours to get down the mountain into town. But the doctor she had to see was 5 hour drive one way. So seeing that she needed hands-on care, we moved back to Illinois, and we began seeing doctors up in like Chicago area, Maywood. And those doctors were kind of going off of just MRIs. Well, it looks like Alexander's disease. I'm like, okay, but I have a negative in my hand from Colorado that says that it's none of these. Can we continue testing? So they just kind of continued on the list of leukodystrophies just to see, that Colorado did like the main, more serious diseases.
So she
Felt
was
like I was
diagnosed.
in nowhere.
She was diagnosed with Alexander's disease in 2016. When was the first time you heard the possibility of Alexander's disease? What year was that?
2010.
2010.
2010.
Oh, okay. And she was born in 2008. Okay. So that was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
possibility, I
She
guess,
was,
kind of. Sorry, she was what?
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I was
no.
just going to say again that she was 7 months. Symptoms started. Um, and yeah, they assumed, that it was that. And when they had mentioned the Alexander's disease back in Colorado, they were like, well, we don't want to tell you the name because we don't want you looking into it and freaking yourself out. So we just kind of sat back and just waited for them to come back to us. And they were like, nope, everything's negative. And I'm like, okay. So we moved back out to Illinois, and we went to Maywood, Chicago, and surrounding towns. But nobody else seemed to want to retest her for what was tested in Colorado.
Did they have
And
suspect any other illnesses, or did they diagnose her with anything else or think something else was going on?
nope, they kept saying it looked like Alexander's disease, but they wouldn't retest her. I said, you're not going to just put a disease in the books and call it a day. I need proof that my daughter had, you know what I'm saying? Like a testing and
Yeah.
lab work and all that.
So you had them
Yes.
test 2 or 3 different times until the third one came back.
Yeah, but that lasted all the way till we moved down to by Springfield. And the first neurologist that I brought her to down here did the same thing. Oh, it's Alexander's disease. I'm like, you've met her for 10 minutes. I'm like, how can you say this? And I got upset for like, hearing it so many times, you kind of hit
Mhm.
that point to like, you know what, never mind. Just this is getting out of hand. At this point, she had already stopped walking. She was on a feeding tube back in 2015 because it took me 2 weeks, which I hated myself, but I thought it was her just being sick and being fatigued and not being able to eat. And I always thought it was just being a picky eater. But it got to the point where I was like, okay, she may need a feeding tube back in 2015. And we did that. So watching her regress from walking, talking, eating, drinking, going to a feeding tube, and not knowing why is my daughter doing this. Nobody can give me an answer. And it was frustrating. It was really hard because she's had siblings. She had cousins, that would ask me questions. They're all younger than her, but well, why is this happening? I can't give you an answer because nobody can give me an answer. But
Yeah.
then after I took her to Carl Hospital is when I finally got a genetic doctor that said, okay, let's retest her. First positive.
That's when you got the first positive for Alexander's.
Yeah,
I
was
imagine that you
the
probably
week.
had, or I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh no, I was just saying that was June of 2016
Okay.
when I found that out for the first positive.
Okay. For the first time, that's when she was had the label Alexander's disease. And did you have a hard
Yeah.
time? Like, did you have a hard time with between doctors communicating with one another, you talking with doctors? Did you gain like distrust in the medical system or anything like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. As a mom, I had a gut feeling after, the third doctor said no, Alexander's disease. I felt that, okay, well, it must be, and I just need to find that one doctor that will retest her, because if it is, then we can get her to physical therapy and, things that she needs. But it took so long that I personally feel that I don't think it would have gave her longer life, but I feel like being able to get her to a physical therapist at a younger age and worked her up, she would have had more strength, may have not given up on walking just as soon as she did, and stuff like that, even though the doctors tell me that there was nothing that could have been done.
Yeah, it could have possibly improved her quality of life. Yeah,
Exactly, to
I
where she have to end up in so early.
or she have to end up in a wheelchair so early. Yeah, I w one
Yeah.
I imagine, I think a lot of parents deal with this, let me know if you do too, but when you're dealing with especially like a rare disease or, having a difficult time finding a diagnosis that as a parent, you feel kind of, well, helpless, obviously, but maybe, guilty or something like you can't fix the situation, what I'm a bad mother. Did you ever have feelings like that?
Oh, big time, all the time.
Mhm.
It ate me up inside because I felt like I'm her mom. I'm supposed to be here to protect her. I'm supposed to be able to help her in any means necessary. But when I wasn't getting the help from the professionals and the doctors and specialists, I was pretty much backed up to a corner that I had no options. I didn't want to do certain exercises with her or make her do like PT at home because I didn't know if it was going to hurt her. I didn't know fully of what Alexander's disease was. I knew it was a neurological disease. I knew that, it would regress, uh, sorry, that she would regress in like walking and eating and doing all that. But I didn't know like pain and muscles, I didn't want to cause that on my daughter. She was dealing with enough from what I was seeing. So I kind of just, I had no options. I didn't know what to do for her. So I kind of just moved her as much as I felt that it wasn't causing her too much pain.
How did you find the strength to kind of get through all of those moments of frustration and helplessness?
God.
Yeah. It's it is amazing what kind of faith can do for for a person. When a lot of times you think that, people would move further away from faith in God when something like this happens, but for a lot of people it brings you closer. And we may never understand why certain things happen. But we have to kind of hold on to the hope that God uses our stories to help someone else out there. And if it brings you any hope, I hope I certainly see Him doing that in you and in Bree's story.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I do. I can see, like, I didn't really go to church back then. I have always believed. I've always been the type of, well, I believe in God, I pray, I read the Bible or I read, scripture and everything. Why do I have to go to a church? Type that's the type of person I was. But then when I did find my church that I started going to literally almost a year to date before Bree passed away, I knew God was working because he brought me these wonderful people from my church that were there during the hardest time that I never, even though people would always say, she's got a disease. You cannot prepare for that day that your child is going to go home. You cannot prepare yourself. Even if you know and you see them getting weaker and you see all that, you cannot prepare yourself. But my church has been amazing. The people there have helped me tremendously and my whole family, my mom and my other daughter and my son and then my two nieces. But praying and understanding that us as humans are never going to understand why did this happen to me. Our brains were never meant to understand God's plans like that. And I believe that me as a person understanding that I'm never going to get that answer helped me to not go into that hole of depression or that helplessness feeling because God, I don't know how to say.
Yeah, he already had your plans and everything. He knew who you were, everything that would everything from before you were even born. And what's that verse, Jeremiah 29:11? I know the plans I have for you, said the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And
Yeah,
yeah, I love that verse. There's definitely a lot of hope in that. And he's really the kind of when we are at that lowest point, he's the one that can fill us the most. We have support system, we have people. He gives us all of these little blessings and these signs along the way to show us that, he's here. It's really hard, but here's this little blessing, something to just hold on to keep us going just a little longer. So I'm so glad to, know that you are a person of faith and that it has carried you this far. Yeah. Did you
yeah. Just
experience
like him sending me you
just like him sending you what?
sending you to my way to help me and everything and just be there for songs or of encouragement words, and I really feel blessed to know you and everybody that has come in our lives during, the last few years of her life.
Well, thank you. That's sweet of you to say. I mean, that's one of the benefits of social media and technology these days is that you can, put yourself out there and, you know, get support and people who do genuinely really, really care and really want to help. And, when it comes to you and Bree, just when you follow, at least for me, when I follow parents and their journeys, it's like you become a part of the family or you feel like a part of the family just following them throughout the years. And so, yeah. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you
But I
experience any oh, yeah, go on.
No, I am so sorry. I just wanted to also mention that before I had gotten the positive result for Bree, seeing that that was in my gut and my mommy intuition or something that she had Alexander's disease, I had reached out to the Alexander's disease Facebook page, and there was wonderful people there who helped me, answer questions. There was a lady there that, because in Illinois, there's only two people with Alexander's disease in Illinois, and that one was Bree and a young lady named Haley.
Well, I listen, I'm glad that you were able to find that community with the Alexander's disease because having a rare disease like that, like you just said, there were only two other people in Illinois. I mean, that has to bring comfort just knowing that you're not completely alone. Because and I imagine, a lot of people, parents who have a child with rare disease, that they feel kind of left out. Like, you know, not enough awareness is being spread or maybe money being donated for research and kind of things like that. It's got to feel even more alone, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. You see all these people out there with healthier children and they kind of look at you. I mean, I've had people look at me getting Bree in and out of the vehicle. Like you would think more people would have offered help the bigger she got. And I mean, she was almost my size. But a lot of people just kind of walked by and just stared. And that makes you feel, I don't know, not embarrassed or anything, but it makes you feel like, man, okay, like there's really nobody there, like that understands,
Yeah. And I know,
and
I
it
think,
really hurts. It hits you in the gut.
no, I imagine it does really hurt. And it hurts me to see that happen with people and to hear about it. I think that a lot of reasons maybe that happens is just because we're afraid. Like people are just afraid of what they don't know and not knowing how to approach or how to help. And it's just easier to walk away and ignore, right? Even though that's probably the most hurtful thing that you can do.
I agree.
What do you think is maybe the most difficult thing of having a child with a rare disease that, maybe other people just don't understand?
Just the difficulties of trying to go out and live life and do things. I mean, what goes on inside our home with a child with a rare disease or limitation of being able to do things like the other siblings or family, it can really take a toll on us as a family. And it is hard to be able to, like I said, be able to go out and do things because,
Hmm.
for one, you know you're going to get the looks. You don't want your family to see the looks. You don't want your own daughter with the disease to feel that she's anything less because of the looks.
Do you think Bree at any point caught on to those or those looks
Maybe at
or any?
certain maybe at certain times because she would give an eye roll to the person, or she'd just look away like with that look like whatever. But I don't think she
Well,
was really affected by it, like cared. I don't know
that's
if that
good.
was because of the disease or just because she's my little girl and we just don't, we don't care. Don't just
Yeah. Well, she's got you and beautiful family, and that's all she really needed, just love. And she got that from you. Would you say that
exactly.
you probably did you experience judgment, you think, from others?
Oh yeah, a lot, very often.
How would you handle that?
A
Would you
lot of
just kind
times
of
you
keep
could
it
kind
in?
of tell that they, what I'm sorry.
Oh, did you just hold that kind of anger or frustration in, or were you vocal about it or tried to educate others, or how did you handle that?
Sometimes, like, there would be a few kids that would come up and ask why is she in the wheelchair, and then the parents would be like, "No, no, 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 don't ask." I'm like, "No, please ask." Like, and I would tell them that she's got, a neurological, like a brain disease, and it caused her to be in a wheelchair, and the kids would actually really be interested in finding out more. But it was really the parents that were pulling the children back, like, "No, no, 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 leave them, but like, don't ask those questions." But I don't think the parents understand that how good that felt because someone so young found that interesting and wanted to know, well, why? Is she okay? Is she going to be okay? And yeah, it may have caught me off guard sometimes to where I'm like, ooh, how do I answer this? It's only like a 3-year-old child. Like, I don't want to scare them, but at the same time, it felt good. And then the parents, here and there would come over and hear and ask questions, and it felt good. But other times, like when you would feel eyes burning the back of your head and you turn around, they're just sitting there staring, you have to ignore that stuff because they may have never been in that situation. And we need to be thankful for them to not have been in that situation to be able to say that they don't understand.
Agree. What would you say, the biggest obstacle was when you were searching for a diagnosis? So, I mean, this is kind of going back now because, you went to 6, 7 different neurologists. It took a few years until you first heard Alexander disease, but uh, 6, how she was born 2008, 6, so like 6 years of kind of waiting before a confirmed diagnosis. What would you say, I guess, through all of that, the biggest obstacle was when searching for that diagnosis?
Just watching
Was it
her
maybe,
regress and not understand why.
did she regress pretty quickly?
Um, in between, so 2010 to 2012, she was really like scooting or crawling around, and then 2013, she got back up walking, which surprised the neurologist back in Maywood because I brought her to the appointment and I had her kind of do her walk run thing to him, and he was impressed because he was like, "Whoa, like this doesn't happen with Alexander's disease." So he kind of was thrown off. But I'm like, but it may not be because we don't have a positive of that. So we don't even know. So then he started double guessing himself. But then 2015, oh yeah, she walked for about a year, never fully ran after she started having seizures. It was more of like a fast walk type deal. And then 2014, end of that is when she just started crawling around. 2015, you could tell that it was hard for her to hold her head up anymore while crawling. And then it got to the point where she just wouldn't move.
For other parents out there who may be listening, that has a child either with Alexander's disease or just any rare disease, or maybe are just, sitting there in the unknown without a diagnosis, is there any advice you can give them or hope in just navigating that journey?
Just to listen to your mommy heart, your daddy heart, grandma, grandpa heart, whatever, Pray on it, whether you believe or not, because God can do miracles regardless of how strong your faith is, or you know. But you hold on strong, and if you feel like you're not getting what you need from a specific doctor, take them elsewhere. Know that there is a doctor out there that cares and will do further testing and will care, and they will stand by you and they will help you with the next steps. But there are people out there. Don't give up just because you hit a couple that didn't.
Yeah, follow your mama heart. And, if you don't like what one doctor says, no problem getting a second, third, fourth opinion, whatever it is. But yeah, keep at it and know you're not alone. And yeah, I mean, I think that's great. Is there anything that you wish others would have told you to maybe bring you comfort?
I mean, I sit here and think back now that even if I would have known back in 2010 that she had Alexander's disease, what difference really would it have made? I mean, I just feel like God had me wait that long so my brain and my my faith could grow stronger, because I wasn't ready back in 2010 to know
Mhm.
the truth. I
Yeah,
feel that it would have been too much for me back then to, have known. But no, I don't really wish anything different as of now with looking back, because I got to fight, I got to stand up, I got to be that advocate for my daughter, and things just didn't play out 100% perfectly, but it helped me to grow stronger in my faith and as a mother.
beautiful. It did. Well, thanks for coming on just to talk with me today and to talk with others and just share your story and experience. I really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you for having me.